Hey, it's Matt Haynes, and I have reviewed a lot of wireless microphones over the last 12 months or so. And so in this video, I have brought together quite a few mics, 9 different wireless microphone systems, so that you can hear the differences and we can discuss some of the features and you can get a better sense of what might work for you. All of these microphones have been selected because they offer versions that have 2 transmitters, and also all of these microphone sets work with cameras as well as phones. There are some models and brands out there that only work with phones, but I'm more interested in ones that work with all types of recording systems. Many of these microphones come in different versions, like a 1 transmitter version versus 2 transmitter version, that kind of thing. I do have affiliate links down in the video notes so that you can check current prices and get the exact system that I've tested. So why am I filming this outdoors? Well, most wireless microphone systems are omnidirectional, which means they pick up sound from all directions, and indoors they can pick up a lot of room sound and room reflections, so outdoors you get a better sense of how they really sound. Some of these microphones have noise reduction, but I don't recommend using noise reduction in a microphone unless it's an emergency, because quite frankly, it can create artifacts and make your audio sound weird, and then you can't fix it afterwards. Better to use it in your editing software so that you have some control over it. Now, most of these microphones were sent to me by the manufacturer, hoping to get a review. I don't review everything I get sent. In fact, I've got at least 3 or 4 wireless systems that I didn't review because I didn't think they were worthy. Also, car going by. Also, there are a couple of microphone sets that I'm including in this roundup because I didn't review them earlier, but I think it's important that you know why. So I'll explain when I get to those microphones why I didn't review them and what's going on there. Okay, first up we have the CaTeFo Star 100 wireless system, and it goes for about $60. It's the cheapest one on my list here, and you know, for the price you do get some interesting features. First of all, you get a charging case. Now, unlike some of the other charging cases, the units don't automatically turn on when you pull them out. You do have to manually turn them on. Now, CaTeFo has made some design compromises with this to keep the price down, and one of the things they've done is the body or the chassis of the transmitter and the receiver, they're identical. So you have some interesting buttons that don't do what you would expect them to. For example, on the transmitter, you've got a plus and minus button. You would think volume, but no, that's volume on the receiver. On the transmitter, one turns on noise reduction, and the other one, if you hold both of them down, you can you know, sync the 2 units together. Considering how inexpensive these units are, it's nice that CaTeFo actually included an external mic input on the transmitter. Now, they don't include actual lavalier microphones, but if you do have a lavalier microphone, you can plug it right into the transmitter. That same mini jack on the receiver is a headphone monitoring output, which is also another nice touch considering how cheap these are. You get 1 tiny LED on these units to tell you what's going on, and it's either blue or it's green or it's blinking or it's solid or it's red or it's some combination of those. But again, you know, for $60, you're not going to get a full LED screen or something like that. Now, an interesting feature on the Star 100 units that you just don't find on a lot of wireless systems is that the receiver actually has a microphone as well. So you really have 3 microphones. You have 2 transmitters and you've got a receiver. And I guess the idea is that you could have someone interviewing from behind the camera and 2 people on camera, and then you'd be able to pick up the audio of the person behind the camera as well. In reality, in practice, I didn't find it very useful. The sound, balancing the audio from the receiver and the transmitters is really difficult because the person with the camera is much closer to the microphone. So I didn't find that to be that great a feature. In terms of accessories, you get a case to hold the case. Now, what I mean is there's a soft case that you can put the charging case in. And this is actually a really good idea because it allows you some space to put extra cables. There's little magnets that come with the unit, so you can put behind your shirt and suspend the transmitter on the middle of your shirt. And you also get some dead cats and things like that. So those all go in the case, but not the charging case, because the charging case is only big enough to put the transmitters and receiver. Now, speaking of dead cats, this is my one big issue with this unit, is that the dead cats are really, really hard to put on. The first time I attempted to put them on, it must have taken me like 5 minutes to get them on. I've come up with a system now to put them on much faster, but it's not a great design. But you know, overall, for $60, you're getting a decent amount. Now the sound quality, not as great as wireless systems that cost more money, but you know, if you're on a budget, this is definitely a solution to consider. Okay, next up we have the BoyaLink from Boya, and it goes for about $100. And now this is one of the wireless systems that I chose not to review when the manufacturer sent it to me. I mean, it's got a decent enough feature set for the price range. It's got a 100-meter range, and you've got connectors for mini jack for a camera, as well as USB-C and an iPhone connection. Got about 10 hours of battery life. You've also got noise reduction if you like that sort of thing. I personally don't. Here's the problem I have with these. Well, actually, I have a couple of problems. The first one is the sound quality. I think it's a little muffled. There are cheaper microphone systems that sound better, but also the way this connects to a camera is pretty much unusable. It works fine with cell phones because those adapters work well, but the mini jack, it just plugs into your camera and you know, attached to the receiver, and you can basically spin the receiver around in the mini jack. That's not how wireless receivers are meant to connect with a camera, and some cameras it won't even work with at all. So I think they made it was an interesting design choice that sounded good on paper but did not work. All right, next up we have the Saramonic Blink 500B2 Plus, which is probably the longest name I've seen in a wireless microphone system. These go for about $130, and like some of the other wireless systems we've seen, it comes with a charging case. When you remove the units from the charging case, they power up. When you put them back in the case, they power down. You get a bunch of accessories with the Saramonic system. You get dead cats, you get cables, you get magnets, you get clips and all that. I do like how they've handled the phone versus camera issue. Now, some wireless systems come up with a way to plug it into, you know, either an Android or an iPhone, but then it struggles to make sense when you're trying to plug it in with a camera, because it's you know, a mini jack 3.5 millimeter cable versus the USB-C or the Apple version. And what they've done is that they have these little adapters that fit into your phone and snap onto the receiver. So the receiver just hangs off the bottom of your phone when you're using a phone. But they also have a cable input, so when you're putting it on a camera, you just go cable to cable, because otherwise it just wouldn't work if you were trying to, I don't know, snap it into your mini jack of your camera. Like many wireless systems these days, you get noise reduction, but instead of one level, you get 2 levels of noise reduction. And a nice feature I don't see a whole lot of other places, you get a low roll-off filter. So if you're getting some rumble, or I don't know, maybe you lost your dead cat and you're getting some wind noise, you can help compensate by rolling off the low end. And you get 2 levels of roll-off as well, at 75 hertz and 150 hertz. You get a 150 meter range with these, you know, unobstructed of course, and you get 16 hours of usage out of the transmitter and 20 hours out of the receiver, which is a really long time to have a microphone running. That's pretty awesome. Now, there are some downsides to the Saramonic, and well, really just the one downside. The menu system on these is really hard to navigate. They really needed one extra button to make it usable, and quite frankly, if I don't have the little paper manual with me when I take them out, I sometimes can't make the adjustments I need because I just forget, because it feels like random button pushes. Now, if I were using this system all the time, it would probably become second nature, but that is a little bit of a turnoff. Overall, though, the system is pretty darn good. All right, next up on our list, we have the Hollyland Lark M2 wireless system, and it is a tiny, tiny transmitter. In fact, I think that's probably its claim to fame. I haven't seen a whole lot of wireless systems that have transmitters smaller than this, and so if you're looking for something really discreet, something you can hide, or at least something that's not drawing attention to itself, you know, on your shirt or on your person, this is something you should consider. Also, considering how small it is, it sounds pretty darn good. And I say that because usually size can be a limiting factor with audio. When things are really, really small, sometimes you get a reduction in sound quality. You might lose some low end or something like that, but these sound pretty decent. You do get a charging case with this set, and the charging case is pretty small. It just holds the transmitters and the receiver, nothing else. You also get a pouch to hold the charging case and the standard cables that you would expect. You do have some other accessories. Now, the transmitters are so small that they don't have a built-in clip on the back, but they do have these little magnetic clips that will fit to the back. The transmitters are magnetic by themselves, so you can actually stick them to things without needing another magnet. But if you want to clip it in a more traditional way, you just magnetically pop that clip on, and then you can clip it to your clothing. You get some magnets that you can put behind your shirt so that you can suspend the transmitter just in the middle of your shirt, kind of like what I'm doing right here. Those magnets are pretty small. You also get a necklace with this, and the idea with this is that you can put it around your neck, tuck it in your shirt, and there's a magnet at the bottom of the necklace, so you can actually attach the transmitter to the front of your shirt with the necklace magnet behind it. And this is a nice way, I guess, to not lose those little magnets, because you've got the actual necklace to not have drop and roll down a storm drain or something like that. You of course get some dead cats with these, and this is one of my big beefs with this wireless system. Now, in general, it's a pretty decent wireless system, but the dead cats, the transmitters are so small that the dead cats actually fit over the entire transmitter, and they're this giant fluff ball on your chest or on your collar, and it kind of undoes the whole stealthy aspect or the minimalist aspect of these transmitters when you have this giant fluff ball kind of drawing attention to itself. The Lark M2 comes in several different versions depending on whether you're using it for a specific phone model or if you're using it for a camera. I have the camera version, but even the camera version does come with some phone cables, so you can use it with a phone in a pinch. The transmitters will run for about 10 hours on a single charge, which is pretty impressive, again, for such a small form factor, that they're able to put a battery in there that can last that long. The Lark M2 has a 300-meter range if you've got an unobstructed view between your transmitter and receiver. Again, very impressive for such a small form factor. And you also get built-in noise reduction, which you can turn on at the transmitter with a flip of the switch. Okay, here's my other beef with this system. The receiver has 3 levels of volume control, and you set that with a dial. Now, the dial, unfortunately, is very easy to knock out of place, and you can change your volume setting accidentally. And this actually happened to me when I was in Hawaii, and I completely ruined a recording session I was doing. So that's something to be aware of. Now, if you need something that's a small form factor, this really is the way to go, and it is a good sounding system. So I wouldn't let you hold that back, but you might want to bring a little bit of masking tape with you to just stick on the top there. All right, next up, we have the Neewer CM28 system, and this goes for about $130 with the 2 transmitter system and a receiver. You get a charging case, you get a cable to plug it into your camera. You also get some phone adapters, and so you can plug it into a USB-C phone or an iPhone. And I think Neewer did a really nice job with these adapters. They just plug right into the receiver, and then that receiver, you basically snap it into the bottom of your phone, and it seems really stable. And also, some companies have tried to come up with a little adapter for cameras as well, and that doesn't work. You really need a mini jack cable to plug in the cameras. Unfortunately, Neewer has that option with the receiver. You can plug it into phones, you can plug it into a camera, and it works really well. As far as accessories go, you get dead cats for the transmitter, you get a charging cable, and you also get a little pouch to put everything in, because you can't fit the dead cats and the cable into the charging case itself, so that gives you a way to keep everything together. Neewer claims that these have a 200-meter range. I haven't tried it. They do charge really fast. You can charge them up in 1.5 hours, which is pretty cool. Also, you get 2 full charges from the charging case for each round before you have to plug in the charging case itself. And one thing that I find surprising for this price point, I haven't seen it yet in another unit at $130, is that you can record internally. And that's a big deal. Recording internally allows you allows you to have a backup in case something goes wrong with the, the receiver signal, or, maybe you got a bad cable going into your camera. But sometimes I'll just use the audio out of the transmitter just automatically without even worrying about what I recorded into the camera itself. And then I just sync it up in my editing software. Now the CM28 does have noise reduction. It's just a click of a button and you've got noise reduction going. And I mean, as far as noise reduction goes, it's fine compared to the other ones, but it's still noise reduction, and it can really mess up your audio if you're not careful. And I gotta say, the CM28 system is still the wireless system that I go to when I need a good quality wireless microphone. In fact, I was reviewing a different system the other day. I got home and I listened to it and I went, oh wow, did I do something wrong with the recording? And then I went and listened to the CM28 again, and I'm like, phew, no, it's just that particular wireless system. The CM28, it sounds great, and it's affordable, and it has recording built in. What's not to love? Okay, the next wireless mic on the list is the Synco G2 Max. Now, this G2 series comes in a pretty wide variety of configurations. The G2 Max goes for about $170, and one of the things that sets it apart is that it has internal recording inside the transmitters. Now, unlike some of the cheaper wireless microphone systems, the Synco system looks like it's aiming directly at the Rode Go2 wireless system. It has the same form factor, kind of a boxy, larger transmitter and receiver. It doesn't have a charging case or anything like that. And in terms of features, it's either competitive or in some cases outdoes the Rode Go2 for a cheaper price. With that internal recording, you get 8 gigabytes of storage, which gives you 24 hours of audio recording. However, you can only record a maximum of 5 hours at any one time, which I think is probably fine for most people. You also get a range of 200 meters with these, or about 650 feet. Now that's, of course, if the receiver and transmitter aren't obstructed by anything. And you also have not one level of noise reduction, but 2 levels of noise reduction. The receiver unit has an LED screen on it, which gives you a lot of feedback. You also get about 8 hours of battery life in these. And also you get a nice sturdy case, you get a bunch of cables, you get some dead cats. And a nice touch that I think adds to the professionalism of this system is that they come not only with an external mic input, but you get lavalier mics that come with them. And the lavalier mics have clips and they've got little pop filters. Now there are no dead cats for the lav mics, but you've got those on the transmitter, so you probably don't need those. So feature-wise, the G2 Max is pretty comparable to the Rode, like I mentioned. Now in terms of sound quality, they're very different though. I find the Rodes to be a little thinner, and these tend to be more muted in sound quality, but it really comes down to personal preference. All right, next up we have the Comica Boom XD Pro wireless set, and it goes for about $180. Now, I gotta tell you, I didn't review these when they were sent to me. I decided to pass on a review, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. In terms of features, you do get quite a bit on these microphones. First of all, you get an external mic input on each of the transmitters, but you also get actual lavalier mics included. So if you need to hide a mic under a shirt or something and you don't want to have the transmitter hanging out on the front of you, you're ready to go. This system also offers noise reduction, and the transmitters and receivers all have LEDs on it with a lot of information packed on those screens. And you also have internal recording. You've got 16-bit 48K internal recording right into the transmitter. And if you want to access those recordings, you just plug the transmitter into your computer like it was a thumb drive, and you just drag those files over to your computer. Comica claims that you can get up to 24 hours of recording on each transmitter, which is pretty insane. And they also claim that there's a 100-meter range on these if you have an unobstructed view between your transmitter and receiver. Now, I've not tested either one of those stats, so I can't say for sure if they're accurate. The receiver also has the option of recording either in mono, stereo, or a mono with a safety channel, and that gives you lots of options when you're using 2 transmitters with 2 people. Okay, so the reason why I decided not to review these originally when Comica sent them to me, actually 2 reasons, both kind of related. First of all, there's this underlying noise, this digital grunge that just is in all of your recordings. And if you have to boost your level at all, you boost that noise level up and it becomes pretty audible. Also, the internal recording level into the transmitter is really, really low. So to use it, you have to normalize it or boost the volume, and then you end up getting all sorts of grungy noise again. So I chose not to review them. All right, next up we have the Joby Wavo Air wireless system, and they list for $250. And when Joby first sent them to me, you know, I agreed to review them, and I'll explain why. But I also said, are you sure about that price? And they're like, oh yeah. And they're still on their website, it lists for $250. And yet I have seen these on other, you know, retail sites for as low as $40. All right, I'll explain the whole pricing thing in a moment. Now, you do get some accessories. You get different ways to connect the transmitters to yourself with clips and magnets. And there's a necklace that you can hang down underneath your shirt. And you get a couple of dead cats. You also have an external microphone input, and you do get lavalier microphones with this as well, which is a nice touch. And you get about 6 hours of usage life with the transmitters, according to Joby. And you also get a 6-segment LED little ring on the front to indicate your volume level. And that's where we need to start talking about why the price is kind of a mismatch. That's kind of, you know, considering these are listing for $250, that's a really basic feedback system. And overall, the system feels a little cheap. I mean, the plastic just kind of doesn't seem very professional. Here's the thing though. They sound really good. When I chose to review them, I reviewed them because they were the best sounding wireless system I'd ever heard. But in terms of features, you know, if you're comparing features like noise reduction or internal recording and things like that, these just don't cut it. They cut it from a sound quality standpoint, which ought to be the most important thing, but from a feature standpoint, no. So I suspect that Joby is struggling with that fact as well, that just in terms of features, these just can't compete with other $250 microphone sets. But at a $40 price point, it's a steal. It is definitely a steal. Really awesome sound quality. So if you can find them cheap, go for it. All right, last on our list, we've got the Rode GoII wireless system. And the GoII wireless system has been around for a few years, but it is the most expensive on my list today. And it goes for about $300. Rode claims the range on these is 200 meters or 650 feet. And by the way, I did a test on the range of the Rode system along with a couple of other systems a while ago. And that's understating the number. They can go for a long, long time. The transmitters on the Rode system have built-in recording as well, and you get up to 40 hours of recording, although I don't think that's at maximum quality. You can record at 24-bit 48K though, and 24-bit is pretty unusual in the wireless microphone world because most of them are about 16-bit. 24-bit though gives you theoretically better sound quality, although in practice I'm not sure that you would necessarily hear the difference. Unlike any other system I've reviewed today, the Rode system has automatic recording. So when you turn the transmitter on, it just starts recording and it keeps recording till you turn it off. That's great because if you forget to hit the record button on some of those other systems, then you're out of luck if something goes wrong. Now you do have to set this up in the Rode software ahead of time, but once it's set up, it's automatic and it just deletes older files as you make new ones. You don't get a lot of accessories with the Rode system. You just get a cable to plug into your camera and you get a dead cat for each transmitter, and that's about it. You do have an external microphone input. You don't get lavalier mics with these units though. Up until a few months ago, I used the Rode system pretty frequently because they're reliable. You just turn them on and they're ready to go and they're very simple to use. I'm not a big fan of their computer software that you have to use to actually transfer the files over. But it's fine, it's not a big deal. One thing that bugged me about the Rode though, that for the price, I don't like the sound quality. I find them to be a little thin. There isn't a lot of low end. And as you know, I've recently switched to a different wireless system that's a lot cheaper. But this is a great system and it's obviously earned the kudos and lots of people love it. Okay, that's it for my wireless roundup. I hope you were able to compare the sound of these wireless microphones as well as the features. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. Let me know. I'm happy to answer them.